There is being down bad, and then there's the Bloodhound Knights. An order of knights who choose their masters by sniffing them, I guess? Or maybe throwing up gang signs because they do it without ever talking to them. Maybe it's like that mind-meld homie shit where like you and your boy just look at each other and know what's going on bar for bar. I don't know, but once the Bloodhound Knight goes through with this contactless checkout, they are from then on loyal to their masters until their likely brutal demise. A demise that I will often afflict upon them, and today I will be going over every single encounter and piece of equipment related to the Bloodhound Knights. So let's begin. The first encounter we'll have with a Bloodhound Knight will be in Limgrave, at the Forlorn Hound Everjail. We can fight Bloodhound Knight Darrowwill whenever we feel like, but if you struggle with the fight for some reason, then you can go and speak to Kale and he'll tell you to head to Mistwood and snap your fingers. Then you can speak with the big furry.
I'm not a furry.
He'll solicit your help in killing Darrowwill. So now you can summon Blide for the fight. And with the deed done, you'll get the Bloodhound's Fang, and Blide will reward you with a Somber Smithing Stone too. The Fang is a really good weapon, but I already have a video about it, so if you want to know more, then you can go watch that video. It should be on screen right now, and I'll have it listed in the description. We won't see another Bloodhound Knight until we enter Liurnia, where we'll encounter two. The first one is in a rather unexpected place, which is the Lakeside Crystal Cave. This is basically the same exact fight as before, but the knight has a bit more health. When we defeat this knight, we get the Cerulean Amber Medallion, which is unlikely to have any real relation to the Bloodhound Knights, but I felt it was worth mentioning. Other than that, this fight is required if you want to do Latenna's questline because you can't get to her without fighting it. The other Bloodhound Knight in Liurnia is found inside Raya Lucaria, but not really, because you do need the key to get to it, but you don't need to enter the actual academy. Just head down this way to the gate, where we'll eventually encounter this hermit merchant, but also a little bit further we'll find our Bloodhound Knight hanging up on the wall like a goober. The Bloodhound Knight will jump down and fight you once you approach, but he doesn't drop anything other than runes. But I thought we might as well pay him a visit. Before we can continue to the Altus Plateau, we need to hit the brakes and do a U-turn as we have yet to delve into Caelid. While we are backtracking, I would like to ask you to like the video if you have enjoyed it so far, and subscribe if you'd like to see more from my dumbass. Well, enough of that, we're here, in Caelid, the Bakersfield of Elden Ring. We have one Bloodhound Knight here in Caelid, but two items. Our Bloodhound Knight is kind of a weirdo as he's all the way up here on this isolated plateau that you have to cross the bridge to get to. He's just creeping it up over here in the Swamp Lookout Tower, and I feel like this place is intended to have more of a purpose, but we obviously find this prick here who definitely jump scared me on my first playthrough, and the forbidden sorcery of Celia, Eternal Darkness. But unfortunately the Bloodhound Knight himself doesn't drop anything, so let's move on. We gotta move up to Dragonborough for our next item, which is the Ash of War Bloodhound Step. You get this Ash of War, as most of you probably already know, from the Knights Cavalry on the bridge, and this dude has to be like one of the most bullied enemies in Elden Ring. Okay, give it a second, and there he goes. Well, how's the Ash of War? It's a pretty good defensive mobility tool, but it really comes to life when used against humanoid enemies, as you can basically teleport behind them and backstab them, so try it out, but make sure you lock on. Well, now we can head up to the Altus Plateau, but we won't be there for long as we're headed for Mount Gelmir, where our first stop is the Gelmir hero's grave. As we make our way through the dungeon, we'll eventually come across a room with our Bloodhound Knight in it, and he'll just be looking away at the wall, maybe there's a fly buzzing around or something, but once we fight him, he'll drop the entire Bloodhound Knight set, which is really cool unless you're not a fan of looking like you stuck your face in a pencil sharpener. Being more serious, I really wouldn't recommend you wearing this set unless you really like the way it looks, because it has very similar stats, if even worse, than the Godric Soldier set. Well, moving on, once we get to the bottom of this hellhole, we'll of course fight the boss, and as a reward we'll get the Ashes of Bloodhound Knight Flow. It's a pretty good ash, but the more interesting thing is its red eyes, which are a rather rare feature for a spirit. And if you don't know what the red eyes mean, they mean that the spirit is in constant aggro, which makes it good for bosses, but not as good for mobbing, as it'll kind of just go off and do whatever it pleases, leaving your ass behind.
Mother, I crave violence.
Finally, we've reached our last item, and that's the Bloodhound's Claws, which are dropped by a Bloodhound Knight found deep within the bowels of Volcano Manor. You will need to join the recusants, as we need the drawing room key to get to the knight, but once we find him, he's just like hanging around in a dark room like some sort of weirdo. I mean, I'm damn sure there's no way he can see with that dumbass helmet on. Once he's dead, you can claim the Bloodhound's claws, which actually come with Bloodhound's step by default, but you can change it, as unlike the Bloodhound's fang, these are upgraded with regular smithing stones. Additionally, the Bloodhound's claws have a unique anti-block ability that ignores 40% of the damage negation from enemies' blocks. Well, that's all the encounters and equipment related to the Bloodhound Knights. So, what do you think? Would you rather be forced into a Bloodhound Knights only challenge run or a Nice Cavalry only challenge run? I've been trying to increase the amount of content I put out, so some of my bigger projects have been pushed back as they're just a risky time investment at the moment. And I want to thank anybody who's gotten this far into the video, as it means a lot to me. So I'd like to thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day. Peace.